What's up guys, ATCG here, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we have an update on the Blue Eyes deck profile. Konami decided to print even more support for the three main themes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel monsters, including Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, and Red Eyes. In the new Mega TINS we're going to get new cards that are going to give a huge boost to these decks. I know that it's been not the most anticipated thing that a lot of us expected, but since we got those cards, we're going to use them, we're going to see exactly how good they are, and see what exactly they can do for their particular decks. So before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. And now, let's get to the deck profile. So starting things off, of course, play 3 Blue Eyes. If it was important to max out on Blue Eyes before, now it's even more important because of the new spell card that got released. You always need to have one in your hand or in your deck in order to make the most use out of the new support. And of course, you can search this in multiple ways. You can special summon it with your White Stone during your end phases. And it's the all-star monster of the deck, so you have to play 3 of course. Next up, 3 alternative. I know that people have started cutting on alternative, maybe playing 2 copies, but I think in a pure version that this is not a Chaos Max build, this is not a Guard Dragon build, which I forgot to mention, this is just a pure Blue Eyes deck, no Guard Dragons, no anything, just pure beatdown version. I think you need to max out on this card because he's the one that is going to get rid of your problematic monsters that your opponent has on the field. And also being level 8, you can go for the Xyz plays, or you can make synchro plays with your Sage and your White Stones, so I think it's really important. 1 copy of Dragon Spirit of White, just 1, because it can be a break, you can summon it very easily, and once you have already summoned it once, you can just keep accessing it from the graveyard, so it's not like you need another one in your deck in order to special summon during the end phase. And this card is actually really good now that Eldritch is a deck, because banishing Eldritch's back row is actually the best way to deal with them, because if you destroy them, they will just banish them from the grave and get more copies of the elixirs and the golden lad traps from the grave, from the deck to the field. So just being able to banish them over and over again by bringing Dragon Spirit of White from the grave is actually really good. And you can, if your opponent tries to target this with something like a Veil or an Imperm, if you have a Blue Eyes in your hand, you can just tag it out for Blue Eyes and dodge the targeting effect this way. For the tuners, we have 3 White Stone of Ancients. I'm maxing out on this because it's a card that has synergy with the new spell card that got released. Being able to normal summon something is actually very important now, because you have a reason to do it other than just linking it away for a Linkuriboh to get a Blue Eyes in the end phase, or just using it to synchro material for your Spirit Dragon, which is why this is very good. And since I am maxing out the White Stones, you can play cards of Constance in the deck, which is also really good because you can just keep digging through your deck, which is really important. 1 White Stone of Legend, you can just search this whenever you want with your Sage. If you want to get a Blue Eyes in your hand, if you don't have something like a Melody and you don't have access to Blue Eyes, you can search this to get a Blue Eyes from your deck right in your hand. 3 Sage with Eyes of Blue. This can either search you one of your White Stones, which is usually, you do that when you have something to discard them, like a Melody or maybe a Cards of Constance, or you can send an Effect Veiler, which is also another form of interruption, which what makes Sage a really good card. And it has a secondary effect that you can send this to the grave from your hand, target an effect monsters you control, send this to the grave too, and special summon a Blue Eyes monster from your deck, which is really good. For the hand traps, play 3 Ash Blossom. You can play multiple cards like this. You can play Imperm if you think it's better. You can main Nibiru if your format at lower locals is more like combo heavy. But I'm just playing this as a skeleton to make you think about which hand trap you need to play in your deck, because Ash is the most generic one, that it covers the variety of things, especially if you go into an event that you don't know what you're going to be playing. And 1 Effect Veiler. Like I said, this is searchable with your Sage, which is why you only play 1. You don't really want to draw it. You want to search it if you need some more form of interruption, but it's a good card to have in the deck just because it raises the ceiling of the deck just a little bit. Now let's go to the spells. The first new card that Konami released in the Mega TINS is Successor Soul. This card is really good. First of all, it's a quick play, which is very important because it can be used as a form of interruption. You have to tribute an effect monster, which is why I mentioned that having normal summonable monsters like Sage, like the Stones, is very important. Then you target an effect monster your opponent controls, you send it to the grave immediately, and then you can special summon a level 7 or higher normal monster from your hand or deck. So the good thing about this is that in a deck like Dark Magician, if you run out of your Dark Magicians in your deck, then you will not be able to use this because you don't have a way to getting them back consistently from your grave. But in Blue Eyes, you can keep getting your Blue Eyes monsters from your graveyard back to your hand with your White Stones, so this card will most probably always be live. It has a downside that you can only attack with one monster during the turn you activate this, but it's downside only if you use it on your turn, but you would rather use it on your opponent's turn, so this downside is completely irrelevant if you use it during your opponent's turn as a quick play spell. So this card, not only does it get you your Blue Eyes on the field, it gets you your White Stones to the graveyard, and it also is a form of removal, so it's a really good card. I think Konami did a really good job in thinking about how to make a support card for all these decks like Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, and Dark Magician that would be usable in all 3 decks. Next up we have the standard spells. Play 3 Melody of the Awakening Dragon. Of course, you discard 1, usually search an alternative and a Blue Eyes. If you already have a Blue Eyes, you most likely want to search 2 alternatives, just have to pull up play. You discard your stones to the grave so you get the effects during the end phase, pretty good. Now for the revival spells, to play quite a few. 3 Return of the Dragon Lords, you want to max out on this one because it's not once per turn, so if you have multiples you can just bring back a lot of monsters from the grave. Also, it has the effect that protects your dragons from being destroyed by battle or card effect by banishing this card from your grave, also not once per turn effect, which is really good. 1 Silver Scry, play just 1 because it's a once per turn card, so you don't want to draw multiples and brick on it. This deck can brick a little bit. If you decide to play a pure Blue Eyes deck like this and not include cards like Rockets, maybe it will be a little bit more bricky, but it's a lot more fun to play in my opinion because you actually get to enjoy having your Blue Eyes monsters on the field. And 1 Monster Reborn because it's Monster Reborn obviously. Play 2 cards that dump dragons from the deck to the grave. Play 1 Foolish Burial and 1 Dragon Shrine. Just playing 1 and 1 because running multiple Dragon Shrines again runs into the same issue of being once per turn. So you just need to have both ways to send your stones from the deck to the grave to get your Blue Eyes during the end phase. And for the drop spells, play 3 Trade-In. This card is live most of the time, which is why you play 3. You play a total of 7 level 8 monsters, but you also have cards like your Melody of the Awakening Dragon. If you need something to discard for this, you can send your White Stone of the Legend to the grave, search your Blue Eyes, so it's pretty much always live. And 2 cards of Consonance, which could be dead in some scenarios, which is why I'm not maxing on, but playing 4 stones and 3 stage usually means that you can have something to discard for your cards of Consonance. And for the trap cards, this is the second card that Konami created to boost those decks, Destined Rivals. This is not applicable in Red Eyes, but in Blue Eyes and Dark Magician it's really good. If you control Blue Eyes or Dark Magician, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end phase. So it's a really good card going second too, because it can negate an entire board that goes uninterrupted. Or if you're going first and you have this as a form of disruption, then if you know the choke point of your opponent's deck, then you can just slam it on top of being able to negate not only what they've already brought out, but what was the effect that you actually wanted to negate, so it'll be a very devastating card. It's a much better impermanence, which is why I think cards like this are much better than playing impermanence. So I think Ash is better than impermanent in this deck because you already have something to negate monsters on the field, but you just need this extra bit of coverage with Ash Blossom. And the last card is Skill Drain, because in any deck that runs a lot of beaters and that it doesn't really care about its effects, if you have a deck that has a lot of monsters with 3000 or 4000 attack, just playing this 1 Skill Drain is very, very crucial because it's a win button that against most decks they can't deal with it unless they have a background removal effect. Now let's go to the extra decks. First up, the Synchro monsters. We have 2 Blue Eye Spirit Dragon. Because you max out on your White Stone of Ancients, you play your Sage, it's very easy to summon this, so I play 2 copies. Unfortunately, we don't have the Ancient Fairy Dragon Crystal Wing play anymore because Ancient Fairy is banned, but we're going to get what we can with this. 2 Azure Eyes, because you need something to tag out for your spirit. You summon this, makes all your dragons that you currently have untargetable, and then you can, during your standby phase, you can keep bringing back more monsters. If you keep reviving your Dragon Spirit of White, you can keep banishing more back row, which is very, very good. 1 Vermilion Dragon Mech, you summon this if you want some slot removal on the way, and it has a floating effect that if it's destroyed by a card effect, you can target one of your banished tuners and add it to your hand, and you're always going to have a banished tuner because you need to banish a tuner in order to use its effect to destroy a card on the field. And 1 Cloud Castle, because you can bring back one of your level 9 monsters when you synchro summon this, and you all know what happens when you have 2 level 9 monsters on the field. For the Xyz monsters, we played 1 Galaxy Eye Cipher Dragon. This card is really good now with Master Level 5 because it's not like you have to use links in order to get rid of the monster that you stole with this. So it's really, really good. You can just keep using its effect to take control of monster your opponent controls. 1 Full Armor to go into rank up your Galaxy Eyes monsters. You basically can pop 2 cards and steal a monster with this combo. So this pops 1 card, and then you can go into Galaxy Eyes Cipher Blade Dragon. So with this, you can just pop a card your opponent controls, and also it can bring back your Cipher if it's destroyed. So it has a floating effect as well. 1 Photon Lord, in case you have the 2 level 8 monsters and you know that you need to negate a monster effect. 1 number 38, in case you need to negate a spell card, and also redirect attacks, which can come up a lot of the times. 1 Tricky Wall Calamities, because of Cloud Castle, you can bring back one of your Azure Eyes or your Spirit Dragon, and then you can, with your Cloud Castle in this, you can just go into Calamities and completely lock your opponent out of the game. And I play few Link monsters. You don't need a lot of them in this deck. It's not like it's a spam deck, so you will not be able to summon something like an Apollousa or a Boral Sword. And quite frankly, you don't need a Boral Sword because the deck already does so much damage on its own. So first up is 1 Link Kuriboh. This is usually the turn 1 play if you have nothing else than to link away one of your stones to get a Blue Eyes in the end phase, which would make your Destined Rivals live. So it's a much better play than just summoning a Blue Eyes like back in the day, and that was pretty much it. You don't have any kind of interruption. But you want to do this if you have Destined Rivals, Rivals, because you can make not only your Destined Rivals live, but you can make your Successor Soul live, because not only do you get a Blue Eyes in the end phase, but you can also tribute your Linkuriboh with Successor Soul during your opponent's turn to being able to send a monster from the opponent's field to the grave and summon another Blue Eyes on the field. One Relinquished Anima, this is when you're going second. If your opponent has put a monster under the extra monster zones, you can use any of your stones or your Sage to summon this and get the monster. And one Nightmare Phoenix, because the deck, if your opponent finds a way to banish maybe Dragon Spirit of White with any card of effect, then you don't have any inherent background removal, so I think just having this one Phoenix in the extra deck can be clutch in some certain scenarios. So yep, that's the deck, guys. It's really fun. It has a lot more tools now to combat the meta. I don't know how competitive it's going to be. Maybe we can try building a Guard Dragon version of it, which I think would probably cut the Destined Rivals but would keep Successor Soul in the deck. But still, I think you can experiment with the deck. It's very good. The support is really important in order to make the deck a lot better. And subscribe now, guys, because we're going to update our Dark Magician and our Red Eyes decks coming up with Mega TINS. They all got a huge boost, and Dark Magician and Red Eyes actually have an even bigger boost than Blue Eyes because of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Unfortunately, if you want to play Dark Dragoon and Blue Eyes, you have to incorporate a lot of cards that the deck doesn't have synergy with, but you're going to see exactly why Dark Dragoon is very broken in Dark Magician and Red Eyes. So if you want to see those deck profiles, stay tuned, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss when we upload. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.